Alright everybody, this is your friendly D&T teacher, Mr. Loy. You see this A3 journal. It is also your journal that you have with you. So we are going to generate at least two ideas for the handle, the wire frame for the handle, as well as the two ideas for the vertical support of your steady hand game. So to start off with, the easier one of course will be your handle wire shape design. You can actually do it very quickly. For example, this is just one. Or another method is you probably will use existing object. For example, okay, you can actually draw this and then you try to see whether this is of a good design. You can also play with letters, for example G. Alright, how do you create that frame of a G? Now, in your lower sec days, you actually learn this thing called the random lines, right? You remember probably a square template or a rectangle template, and then you're supposed to sketch two curves and two lines, two straight lines like this. And then you probably would now want to follow the shape of what you designed, okay? So maybe this is the darkened edge will be the shape for your handle, but obviously this is a very easy handle because the opening here is so wide, right? Of course anything goes, right? You will not probably hit the wire cross and close the contact, and therefore the buzzer or the LED will not light up. So of course this design requires improvement. So in the PowerPoint animation or the PDF version, I mentioned a little bit about the open loop type. So this is where you slip in the wire course. All right. Of course, if you were to close this design, remember I borrowed the shape from these scissors. If you were to close it, you must make sure that the wire course, all right, is already looped inside. Otherwise, you have to unfasten here, and then you tighten back, okay, and then you coil the wire around. So basically, the handle design is more of the wire shape. All right. So this is easy. So your task is to generate at least two ideas for your handle. All right, so this is for the handle. So on your A3 you can do it big. All right, I'm doing a little bit of this corner of this A3 page because I also want to use this page for your handle, for your vertical support design. Now to start off with, you probably will have remembered for example one of the slides that you watched or saw earlier in the PowerPoint slide lesson in SLS. You saw that I shared in a picture is a vertical column. All right, so to start off with, maybe you just want to get a rough idea of how your vertical support design may be. So to start off with, the simplest one is to actually come up with a rectangular column like this. So this idea obviously is very standard, very common. Of course, it is not aesthetically pleasing, doesn't look very nice, and it may not fit to the overall design of your designer toolkit base. But this is just a startup, all right? Maybe you start to actually want to be a little bit more creative. Perhaps you create a V shape. For some reason, you might need a V shape for it, all right? So you actually created this V shape at the top, which breaks the shape of the standard rectangular block. And I think it looks slightly better in that sense, okay? Now, of course, you may not like a very straight edge type. You may want to come up with a more like a cylindrical design. So obviously what you can do is also come up with your first crate, all right? So you just come up with an idea of this same thing, all right, same method. As you can see, this is all freehand sketching, and remember you need to lock your wrist and swing your arm. All right, this was covered in term 1. So down here you realize that you will have to draw a ellipse, because flat on a piece of paper, all right, if you use a pair of compass to draw your circle, it is supposed to be the radius to be the same. All right, however, if you look from an isometric point of view, all right, which is like this, your circle becomes an ellipse, right? So you need to actually form that shape, and of course behind here you just get the guideline and you try to form the ellipse again. All right, where this part join, you can actually darken to outline the shape of your handle. Now in this case, you can see that is a little bit curvy, all right, at the top. Of course, down here is still straight. Now you may also want to be slightly a little bit more creative. I use a 4B pencil just to make the outline darker a bit. You can actually come out with a free-form curve like so. And then now your vertical column for both of them, all right, you're supposed to come out with 2 vertical columns, will be a little bit more aesthetically pleasing like so. Okay, so of course it's really up to your imagination how you would want your design to look like. So feel free to start off first, all right, with a simple crating like so. All right, now just a revision. Your isometric axis, okay, AXES is plural form, singular form is AXIS. So for your isometric axis, remember you have an imaginary vertical line, horizontal line. The vertical line is one of the 3 isometric axes, all right? The next one is a slant line which makes 30 degrees with the horizontal. So this is the right-hand side isometric axis. And likewise, towards the left-hand side, this is your left-hand side isometric, which is also 30 degrees with the horizontal. So that explains why when you create this crate, it should be more or less 30 degrees. Of course, mine here is definitely more than 30 degrees. It looks like 45 degrees. So I actually got to tidy up by making it less slope. All right. So this part here is now about 30 degrees. So I raise the horizontal line a bit. I ignore this. All right. So then you can actually create your designs again. All right. So if it's going to be a cylindrical at the top, all right, you can actually create a sphere if you want instead of just a flat top surface. And of course, as mentioned here, you can actually do a little bit of wavy. If you don't like wavy, you can actually make it a little bit more sharp shape like so. All right. So obviously here, the design here actually you have to outline a little bit, so you can see from the side that it may look like this. The outcome may be slightly different again. All right. To me, it looks like a pepper or salt condiments container. All right. So do not restrict yourself to just very organic shapes. All right. Like I mentioned before, your elephant. All right. So like this one. Now it doesn't really look like an elephant. All right. Not in real life. It's modified and morphed. So you may want to think about the tail, the handle, all right, in the form of a tail as mentioned in the PowerPoint slide, or the vertical columns that you place here. All right, you can actually have a little bit of a trunk type. Okay, as long as you know where your 2 vertical supports will eventually fit. So I pause here for now. All right, I'm back here. So because I want to spend a bit of time off the air to actually come up with a 3-dimensional view of my designer toolkit base, so which looks like this. So you probably will have to kind of like decide, probably this is going to be your wire shape for your handle. All right, this is actually a handle. Of course, there will be wiring through the circuitry, which we will tuck it in below the top part of your pine wood. Below the base will be your gelotone. Of course, then the next thing is to decide where to have your support, right? So what you can do is you just come up with a simple sketch. In this case, because it is no longer 100%, all right? So this is a stripped down one. So your sketch for your support will also be scaled down accordingly, all right? So for example, I'm just gonna draw this shape here, all right? For some reason, maybe it's appropriate. So just gonna come out with a little bit simple sketch like so, and then just gonna finish it off here. All right. Now, because this sketch is slightly smaller, you may not be able to swing your arm very vigorously. All right. So you just you can rest your palm, all right, the back side of your palm, and come up with the shape here. All right. And then of course probably the other one, which may be across here. So you just come up with the simple crate for you to position where your the column, the vertical column is going to be, and then appropriately about the same height. All right, and then you come out with the second one. So in your journal, all right, you have this opportunity to sketch your designer toolkit base, all right, and then I will need you to actually add on the vertical supports like so, and probably a handle, all right, to give the artist impression, all right, of roughly how this is going to work. So eventually here where you're going to have is probably going to be a wire course, all right. I'm just going to arbitrarily draw the wire course. It has to be a fairly simple design, all right, for you to work with, and that is the impression of a wire course on your designer toolkit base. So I pause you for now. See you in the next segment of the lesson.